Hello there. Good morning. This is my first time going live directly through Facebook, so I just want to make sure real quick. Let me check and see if we've got audio here. Let's see.
Let me check.
All right, we've got audio. Good, great. So, thank you everyone for joining me this morning. I see you guys. Thank you. If you have any comments or questions throughout this morning's live, please feel free to let me know. Happy to answer those for you. This live's going to be a little bit longer. It's probably going to be about 40 minutes, a little longer than I would like, but I think it's a really important topic to talk about. And it's something that I've wanted to share for quite some time. I don't have any slides today for you guys, but I do have some notes because I want to make sure that I don't miss anything. This topic's near and dear to my heart because for any of you that have been struggling with chronic conditions, I see you, I feel you, I hear you. So I just want to get a pulse for you guys that are in the room. Thank you for joining. And again, if you're watching the replay, thank you. Who here has ever felt like you were seeking help on a chronic pain condition or symptoms that you've been having, and you really felt like the person across the table or telehealth on the other side of the computer just really had no clue what you were going through? Not one whatsoever. They're looking at you, they're talking to you, but you really don't feel like they understand. You may know that they know what they're talking about. You know, they may be trained on it. They may have some answers, but they don't get you. They don't see you. They don't get what you're struggling with. So if that's you, you're in the right place. I hear you. Just put a "that's me" in the comments. Put a "that's me." Just want to get a pulse and see what's going on. If you're watching the replay, put "that's me" in the comments below. And we'll touch base on that for sure. Maybe you've gone from doctor to doctor looking for answers and no one's really been able to come up with a solution. They're telling you everything looks fine, you shouldn't be in such pain so young, you look perfectly healthy, and you're just really frustrated. You're not getting answers and you feel like you're not being heard, or they just don't get it. And it really even makes you doubt yourself. Is this really as bad as I'm making it out to be? Is it all in my head? So if you've ever had those thoughts, those doubts, trust me, I get it. I've been there. I'm right there with you. So if either of those scenarios apply to you, then you're in the right space. And today I'm going to be sharing with you my journey with chronic diagnoses. And I've been wanting to share this for quite some time. It's not something I've shared openly, but it is important for me because it's important that you know that you have someone in your corner that has been where you are. When we live this life, many times we feel like we're alone, we're isolated, we're stranded. Our spouse may be supportive, our family may be supportive, our friends are supportive, always asking how things are going. But at the end of the day, we feel like we're the only one going through this and nobody really understands what's happening inside, both physically and mentally, from a day-to-day basis. This happens with practitioners as well. Sometimes they get it, but most of the time, you don't feel heard and you don't feel understood. So, my situation may not look identical to yours. We may have different labels for what our bodies experience. But for many of us, the actual journey itself, the pain, and the emotions that we feel are eerily similar, sometimes nearly identical. So to that, I can 100% relate. I want to share this so you know that when you share your story with me, you know that I am someone that has been through the mental and physical challenges and the pain that you're in, and that I get it, I see you, and I am here to help. So, how did all of this start? Gonna backtrack a little bit, and things really started when I was a teenager. Probably, I don't know, mid-teens, I'd say. And honestly, most things looked pretty normal. There were some things that bothered me, but it wasn't a huge issue at the time. Nothing was super alarming. So what were some of those things? Chronic IBS. I started seeing gastroenterologists probably mid-teens. Little TMI maybe, but having bowel movements like once every 2 weeks, super uncomfortable. Depression, headaches, constantly taking Advil liquid gels. They were a staple in our house, and it was kind of like no big deal to take some of those. Acne, but other little things like clumsiness, easily bruising, extreme cold sensitivity, teeth grinding, mild scoliosis, cervical instability, poor proprioception, depth perception, and coordination, lots of clumsiness, poor balance. And all these things were kind of viewed fairly minor, but you'll see at the end, this is where things really began. And we often look at things, different symptoms as individualized in our current healthcare system, but everything works together in the body. Everything is connected. And that was what was going on with me as well. So we're going to fast forward into my early 20s, and things continue to progress, but there weren't a whole lot of huge issues. I lived my life like most early, 20 somethings, and treated my life or my body like an absolute garbage can. I thought I was healthy because I was thin. I ate what I thought were the right foods. I had eggs for breakfast and a salad, or like tuna salad for lunch. I exercised. I was a normal college student. But especially the gut pain, the IBS, and the headaches continued to get worse. But I just used medications. I continued to live my life. I would use medications, go to a doctor here and there. I never saw someone permanently. But I was essentially ignoring all of the warning signs that my body was giving me and telling me something was wrong, that it needed a little TLC. What it did not need was a prescription or some extra strength Tylenol, which is what I usually threw at it. So when did the proverbial crap start hitting the fan? So it really all started to snowball big time after the birth of our now 10-year-old. And I remember one weekend, he was about a year old or so, maybe a little bit older. And I had to spend the entire weekend in my living room with my child by my side, with the blinds drawn, laying on the couch in the dark, rotating ice packs on my head, while he played so quietly and so nicely and watched the movie Cars on repeat because mommy had such bad head pain. I had a migraine for the whole weekend. So with this, I saw my PCP. She very kindly gave me a 50 milligram prescription of sumatriptan and a referral for neurology. And anybody that's ever had migraine might know how ineffective 50 milligrams of sumatriptan is. But with no diagnosis, that's what she was comfortable giving me. I saw my first neurologist, which I only saw her this one time. She was the one that diagnosed me. I explained my symptoms, I explained the pain pattern, and I was sent on my way with a migraine diagnosis and a script for 100 milligrams of sumatriptan to use in an abortive situation. And I had zero other information, no advice, and no instructions for follow-up care to be had. So kind of sent on my way, but at this time migraine was still, I was prone to headaches, but I didn't know they were all migraines. I didn't know that migraine is a neurological disorder, not just a headache. So now I went to school for biology. I've worked in clinical settings, I've worked in research settings, I've been in both clinical and academic environments and labs and patient care, and I thought that Western medicine had all the answers. I really did, for a very long time. But as time went on and I began experiencing more and more symptoms, more pain, more unsolved mysteries, if you will, I realized that maybe that wasn't the case, unfortunately. But I had hope. I had hope. So at this point, Western medicine was all I knew. So I continued to dig and saw doctor to doctor. I had horrendous IBS. My migraine progressed. Um, Tons of symptoms and hangovers. Like, forget it. If I drank alcohol, my hangovers were horrendous. And I know nobody likes it, and it doesn't feel good, but I felt terrible all the time. Moving forward, I developed chronic muscle pain, chronic joint pain. Sometimes it was debilitating, but usually just impacted my range of motion or caused a migraine to trigger. I began working on more physical therapy and my nutrition, but nothing really seemed to help. So this leads us up to 2020 when I became pregnant with our second child, right? We've gone all this time, and the pregnancy had its ups and downs, but nothing too alarming. And might I add something that I did miss after our first child was born, shortly after that, in 2016, I developed perioral dermatitis. So dermatitis all around my mouth. And I dealt with this from 2016 to 2020, and it eventually spread up my cheeks and around my eyes. So that was something that I was also dealing with during that time, that I was seeing dermatologists, not really getting any answers. Prescriptions weren't working. Over the counters weren't working. Nothing topical, antibiotics, none of that were working. So this leads me to pregnancy number 2, and nothing crazy during the pregnancy, but toward the end, I developed another rash called pruritic folliculitis of pregnancy. And let me tell you, this was awful. I felt like I spent the day trying not to itch all of my skin off. It burned, it was uncomfortable, it was constant itching from head to toe. I would put ice packs all over my body to try to calm it down. I would rotate ice packs. So I went to the dermatologist, and they told me it's pruritic folliculitis of pregnancy. It's really rare. Only about 1 in every 3,000 pregnancies develop this condition. They don't know what causes it. They don't know how to get rid of it. The only thing you can do is have the baby. So I was like, okay, great. Now, since it was rare, they proceeded to ask me if the residents and interns and students, they might have been students at that time, I think Pitt students, if they could come in because they may never see this again. So being into the love of learning that I had, I was like, okay, sure. So in walk like a resident and 4 students, and I'm standing there with my body covered in like this crazy rash. So crazy rash, granny panties, standing there pregnant, being stared at by medical students, which was awesome. And might I add, they were taking photos. So I walked out of there with really no direction, couldn't wait to have this baby, and just knowing that I was going to be the topic of conversation at an upcoming dermatology conference at some point. So we'll regroup later on the rashes. But after the little guy was born, we got connected. My husband got connected with a functional doctor, actually out on the West Coast. We decided to try like this new hippy dippy thing. We'll try the non-conventional method and see what happens. And I was like, sounds great. Run all the labs. Didn't love that it was out of pocket. We're used to insurance and all that, but like, let's run the labs and do all this. So after a laundry list of supplements, thousands of dollars later, and advice for a low-carb diet, and I finally felt that I might be on the right track. Thought I was going to be able to say goodbye to migraine and joint pain and terrible IBS and gas that smelled awful. Sorry if that's TMI, but that's what I was going through. And I was like, we've got this, right? We've got it. No more doctors. This is the answer. So kind of. he was on the right track with a lot of things, but I personally didn't love him. He was more of a fit for my husband, and that coupled with the advice to basically go on keto, which I tried, but I was miserable. And also had come across the research indicating that keto diets can actually cause type 2 diabetes in healthy individuals. I decided this wasn't the path for me. Tried another functional doctor. Long story short, that didn't work out. She was kind of on the right track. Her main focus was increasing bowel movements, and I thought she was crazy. I wasn't going once a day, let alone going 2 to 3 times a day like she had me on a goal of. But I was still new to root cause medicine, and many of my symptoms were being ignored. My main focus was the IBS and migraine. But like I said, I had so many other things going on. I've counted them before, and there's over 50 individual symptoms, but they all play in together. But at the time, I was looking at individual things and really focusing on the things that caused me the most discomfort and pain. So, I'm just going to skim over a couple of things here that aren't super necessary so I can save your time. Finally tried a third functional medicine doctor, and I'm still with her, but I've learned a lot over the last several years of working with functional medicine doctors and naturopaths, and that's we often look at them and basically just replace pharmaceuticals with nutraceuticals. And I'm a big proponent, a supporter of the right supplements, but what I've learned is many times we see these practitioners and they're just replacing pharmaceuticals with supplements, and we have the expectation that these supplements are now going to solve our problems. We think they're safer, they're healthier, and they're going to fix the issue, right? They're natural. It's supposed to help our bodies. So they can be very supportive, but they don't heal, okay? What all of these practitioners were missing, as well as medical practitioners from, in the conventional space, was that proper nutritional advice that would allow my body to heal. Okay, none of them had that. The closest I got was being told to eliminate dairy and to lower my protein intake, which actually the first functional doctor did tell me. But he was gearing more toward keto than low protein, high carb. In any event, the other thing that was lacking was guidance on how to support the various systems in my body so my body could come off of damage control and actually heal. So it's basically like trying to scoop the water out of a sinking boat as you're sinking. You're not getting anywhere, right? So I was lacking those two primary things. So I want to backtrack a little bit because we went down the functional road. I showed you what that looks like. But at the same time, I was seeing gastroenterologists, dermatologists, physical therapists, neurologists, physiotherapists. I'm trying to think if there's anything that I'm missing. I'm seeing all of these people, but I never really felt like someone understood where I was at. And my PCP was great. She'd give me referrals for whatever I needed, but we never were able to put the full picture together. So in any event, the first time I saw a neurologist again since my original diagnosis, I remember him saying, and I was flabbergasted, I was absolutely shocked. He said, "We don't know what causes migraine, but we think it has something to do with sensitive brain." Like, really? It's the 21st century and you don't know what causes migraine? This is literally your job. You are a neurologist, a headache specialist at the headache clinic, and this is one of our first interaction. I thought it was crazy. I thought it was ridiculous, but I didn't know where else to turn. So I hopped on medication. It was medication Russian roulette. And like most people with migraine, they didn't help. The medications did not help. If they did, it was for about a couple of weeks, which could be chalked up to the placebo effect, to be frank, which is interesting. I won't dive into that right now. But I knew that medications weren't going to be something I wanted to be on long term, but I gave it a shot. After a handful failed, I did start to see a new neurologist, which came with its own challenges. And eventually we hit a dead end. And during this time, I was going through a lot, trying different things with nutrition. I really felt that none of my doctors understood me or were really giving me a treatment plan that was actually going to help. And I can't remember how many times I had tried to push through the day, feeling miserable, trying to cook dinner, trying to be a mom, trying to have as much presence I possibly could with sharp pain front and center in my face. It's really hard to be present with that. So I lost a lot of quality time with my family. Couldn't throw a football to my son or baseball because of the joint pain in my arm and thoracic outlet syndrome, which flared up like crazy on a regular basis. Yeah, I tried elimination diets, low FODMAP, oxalates, salicylates, histamine, low carb, keto, a bunch of nonsense. And I remember sitting at the kitchen table researching treatment plans and facilities, right? I would sit there, and the one thing that I really wanted to try to do, because it was recommended to me by family that it could be super helpful, so I had really high hopes and I did a lot of research on them, was the Diamond Headache Clinic. And I did all the research and I called them, and it was going to cost $25,000 out of pocket for me to go. Okay. To me to go through their testing, see what they have to say. And all I could think about was, is my condition going to bankrupt my family? I'm in my early 30s. Is this what we have to look forward to? And do I do that? Will it help? Will I actually get my life back? I have no idea. Will I go and they simply offer me the same medications that I can get here that might work subpar at best? So what a lot of people don't know about migraine medication is that there are a lot of different options used, like propranolol for blood pressure. They'll use it off-label for migraine. But what they don't really know is the mechanism of how to actually prevent or cure migraine. So they try all of these different things in hopes that it might work for some people, but for most people, it doesn't work. And some people are on 2, 3, 4 preventatives and 1+ abortive prescriptions, and they still don't get full relief. So migraine is not well understood, even in 2025. So if you've been there, I get it. I was going to go into a few more details, but I don't want to beat a dead horse. I finally realized that after these medications failed, I was going to give one more medication a shot, and that was Emgality, which is an anti-CGRP medication. They're supposed to be like the holy grail, this new technology to prevent migraine. And after 6 months being on that, I threw in the towel. But that was later in 2023 over the summer when I finally threw in the towel. But around January, around the time I was trying to get approved for Emgality, I came across a study on plant-based nutrition and migraine. Then I came across the work of Anthony William, which is all about natural healing using food as medicine. Then I began to soak up every book, ebook that I had time for that I could listen to during every waking hour, written by MDs, PhDs, holistic practitioners, you name it, that I could. I didn't know how, but I knew there had to be answers in nutrition and lifestyle. The science supported it. There are hundreds of books, studies, articles. This is going to be it. So I spent the next 11 months trying to figure out, studying the effects of nutrition on health and healing, and also obtaining some of my own nutritionist certifications, personal training, health and wellness certifications, and all of that. And finally, in fall of 2023, I decided to dive in headfirst with nutrition changes. And that's when everything started to turn around. So this was after nearly a year of educating myself on the healing power of food and lifestyle. I made these changes. I didn't want to, but the pain was too much. I was tired of it. Living in Groundhog's Day every single day. So over the course of the next couple of years, I began to focus on a few different things. So I focused on gut health, liver support, immune support, and nervous system regulation. And this is where everything changed. Within a couple months of changing my nutrition, the dermatitis completely disappeared, and I haven't had a flare since. I dealt with that from 2016 to 2023. My IBS is now about 95% healed. I still have some flares here and there. But for the most part, healthy, happy gut. Bowel movements are fantastic. I know that may not be what you want to hear, but I might have 3 solid bowel movements by 9 a.m. and I'm okay with that. It's wonderful. So anyway, I'll move on from that, but we can talk about poop all day. When you're in the holistic space, it's just something you do because it's so important. In any event, was it 2023? I think it was 2023 as well. I did get some injections into my cervical spine, some prolotherapy injections in Florida. So this was during 2023 as well. And yeah, that was it. So much has happened. And this is getting a little lengthy, so I want to make sure that I stay on track. But he is an Ehlers-Danlos specialist as well. He specializes in cervical instability and Ehlers-Danlos. So he basically said to me, you know what, if you do not have this condition, you're borderline, so you need to get checked out. So this led to another rabbit hole, and basically being a pinball in the medical system, because in our medical system, we tend to focus on one system at a time. Everybody's got their specialty, and that's just how it works, which can be good, but then things get overlooked because, like I said earlier, the body works together in so many ways. Everything is connected, and when we parse it out, we miss things. So Ehlers-Danlos is a connective tissue disorder, and since connective tissue is almost ubiquitous throughout the body, it affects multiple systems. It affects your nervous system. It affects your cardiovascular system. It affects your skin. It affects your joints. It affects your muscles. So it affects all of these tissues. It affects your digestion. So since it covers everything, there's really not a whole lot of specialists on it. And if someone had heard of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome in medical school, they likely weren't trained on it. So they're very, very difficult to find. It took me almost a year to find the correct practitioner to even receive a diagnosis. Also, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, hypermobile type, is prevalent in about 1 in every 5,000 people. So it is rare. Other types of EDS are even less common. They are finding that it's becoming more prevalent. So the numbers may be a little more common than the 1 in every 5,000, but that's the best statistic we have right now. The long and the short of it is talking with them. We were finally able to get a full picture. So that crazy rash that I had when I was pregnant, that was mast cell activation. So along with hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, I received the diagnoses of POTS and MCAS. So at this point, I thought I was only dealing with migraine and some IBS, but I have 5 solid chronic condition diagnoses, which can be mentally and emotionally exhausting. But that latest diagnosis was in May 2024, so fairly recently. But I had already begun making progress using the information that I had learned over the past couple of years regarding nutrition and healing. I'd already begun reducing my pain, reducing migraine severity and frequency, improving my gut health, and I can go longer without pain. I've improved my skin. My skin is clear. And I can finally eat freely without worried about weight gain. This is something that's been a challenge for me for a long time. And um, it was really frustrating because I felt like I gained weight at the drop of a dime. No matter what I ate, if I smelled the cake, I felt like I gained weight. I can finally eat freely, and I felt like I was on my path to freedom. Now, that's not to say I don't have my ups and downs. I still do. My days are not perfect. I still have flares. It can be disheartening, but I know that I'm on the right path. I know that my body is meant for more. I know that God did not create me to have a broken body or live in pain, and He didn't create you for that either. I know what to look for, and I know what to do, and I know that I'm on the right path, and I have that confidence now, which I did not have before when I was running around from doctor to doctor trying to figure things out. Now, that being said, I am still on my healing journey. I had these symptoms for years. They didn't creep up overnight. I had them for years, and neurological conditions and Ehlers-Danlos syndrome are extremely complicated. It might take me years, decades, potentially, to be healed. But I know at the end of the day and in my soul that it is possible. So I'm sure that I missed plenty in my attempts to kind of condense this. And even from my notes, I wanted to try to condense it a little bit more just to make the best use of your time. But you get the picture. At the end of the day, my journey, as hard as it has been and can be, has been a huge blessing. There really is a silver lining, or I choose to see one, because it's not ideal. It does hurt. And I do feel like I've lost years of my life, but I also feel like I have learned so much. The determination that I've had over the years to get answers has taught me, it's invaluable. It's taught me how to help myself, how to help my family, and how to help other people that may not have this information, that may not know where to look, that may feel like they're lost. Maybe they don't have hope yet. Or maybe you have hope and you're not sure where to start, or no one has reached out to tell you about how the body can heal and about how you can take your health back in your own hands. Masking symptoms with subpar medications was not the answer, and realizing that has changed the trajectory of my entire life. It's made my life better, more meaningful. I'll have forever changed my life and the life of my children, and hopefully the lives of many others. So the long and the short of it is it's my desire to help you know that you are heard, you are understood, you are seen, and when we work together, that you have someone that actually gets you. I see you, I know what you've been through, and to share answers with you that you may not have received otherwise, to remove the noise around health and nutrition and help you get back to basics so you can do the work that you need to do for your body to heal and for you to get your life back. So, because of what I went through, I have the gift to be able to do that and share that with others to help you reduce your pain and improve your days and help you to live with vitality. So, for those of you that hung in there with me, thank you. I know that this conversation was a little longer than expected, and I can't sit still. I bebop around a lot when I have conversations. So Sorry if this is tough to watch, but I'm still getting used to doing these lives as well. If this resonated with you on any level, leave a comment, shoot me your DM. We can schedule some time to talk. Maybe you don't know what this looks like or if you can even be helped, but we can at least have a conversation. Um, and in worst case scenario, if I'm not a good fit for you, if I can't serve you in the way that you need on your journey, I would like to be able to give you some tools and resources that you can utilize and implement today to help you on your journey. So, at minimum, let's connect. But also, I've got a live. Maybe you're not working ready for that, but I've got a live coming up at the end of the month. It is scheduled under the events, so check that out. And during this workshop, we're going to discuss how to reduce your pain, get off medications, and get your life back, regardless of your diagnosis, and even if you feel like you've tried everything already. So we'll discuss why things haven't worked so far, exactly what you need to do to heal your body, optimize cellular health, and reverse your condition. That's the overall goal. And it may take time and it may not be complete, but you can at least get your life back in many cases, in most cases. So that's my goal. And that brings us really to the end. Thanks again for hanging in there. If you have any questions, let me know. But as always, it's been fun. The replay will be posted, and I look forward to talking to you all soon. Bye.